Redditors who have been in coma for a long time, greater than 1 year, what was it like to wake up again? And how did you adjust to literally a long fast forward? I had no idea where I was. I had no idea what happened. Months later I was still learning about who did, or didn't, visit, pray, call, ask. Finances were a total mess, trust me, companies do not care. Massive debt and financial penalties. And took over 18 months to get a job after painful physical rehabilitation and explaining over and over and over that I was in a coma, not just not working. Then COVID. Damn man, glad you pulled through. Thanks. I appreciate your kindness. Ever think shit, I hope this is still the coma? Hollywood's depiction of waking from a coma is shockingly wrong. I was really stunned when my friend was in one for about a month and had to relearn virtually every basic function. Yeah, my friend was in a coma for a couple of weeks and it took days for her to wake up. Then she had to relearn movement, speech, walking, everything. Crazy. Just before my grandpa died, he stopped eating and drinking and kind of went in and out of comatose states for a few days, and the doctor was explaining to us that doctors don't really like the terms coma and wake up because it implies a binary of coma and consciousness, when in reality it's a spectrum with lots of shades of gray. I was out for just over a month. It was surreal, like a dream I couldn't quite wake up from. When I woke up, my arms and legs didn't work and my vision and thoughts were really fuzzy. I thought I was out for a few days and was unpleasantly surprised to know it has been over a month. What were the dreams like? Oddly enough, walking around the streets of my hometown. There was music that seemed to come from the sky and someone was talking to me, but they sounded really far away. Turns out my best friend had sat next to a hospital bed, talking to and playing a lot of our favorite music. Does it count if you can't remember a single thing for 6 to 8 weeks? I was technically out, but my wife says she had a conversation with me every day. I don't remember anything but was medically sedated for almost 2 months after getting hit by a car cycling. Anyway, I couldn't walk or use any extremities upon coming to. Extreme muscle atrophy required almost 2 years of PT to regain full independence. Not fun at all. My dad also lost several weeks of memories after being run over by a car whilst he was out cycling. Weird how similar your stories are. He spent 2 months in hospital too but couldn't remember anything that had happened for weeks beforehand. The accident happened in January but when he was taken out of his induced coma he still thought it was the year before and couldn't remember Christmas or anything. Did you just find your dad on Reddit? My sister was in a car accident and sustained a massive head injury. She was in a coma for over 5 months. Waking up from a coma doesn't happen suddenly. It's gradual. She had to relearn everything starting with swallowing. She's missing her last year of high school and she cannot remember many things since her accident. Her short-term memory was damaged. Her damaged memory makes her very frustrated. Will her recovery from the coma take longer than the duration of the coma itself? She had almost 2 years of intensive therapy. Speech therapy and she had to learn how to walk. Her accident happened in 1994. I was in a coma for 3 weeks. Not that long but my dreams made me feel like I was out for decades. I was really confused and didn't understand where I was or why. What did you dream about? And #X200B. I remember a story from a Redditor some years ago that described his coma dreams. He was badly burned and put into a medical coma. In his dreams, he was trapped in a large building that was on fire and searing him and he kept searching for an exit but could never find a way out. He literally thought he'd died and gone to hell. Oh how terrible. I feel like the state should automatically give you disability or at least assign you a caseworker to suspend your bills and store your stuff while you're in a coma. Like, there should be a system where the hospital logs you as a coma patient and then social services step in. WTF. I agree. Like after a certain amount of days somebody steps in to help BC you obviously didn't ask to be in a coma and there's literally nothing you can do about anything. There are a lot of things that should be changed regarding healthcare, at least in the US. I'm not American, but from everything I've heard about American healthcare, it sounds dystopian. My uncle and dad were in a terrible wreck when they were both 19. My dad was out about 6 to 7 hours, remembers nothing. My uncle was in a coma for 6 weeks. He said he could hear every conversation, knew when people visited him, but he couldn't communicate or move a muscle. He can still recall conversations people had while visiting him. He said his greatest fear was they would think he was dead and bury him. He was terrified because he couldn't react or communicate and didn't know what they would do with him. Then he woke up. He had some lifelong disabilities but went on to become the VP at his company in Texas. Edit: wow, I had no idea you awesome people would give my uncle's story so much response. Thanks for the awards. It sounds like your uncle had locked-in syndrome. Thanks for giving me a new fear. Not me, but my grandfather woke up from a coma a few months ago. He was in a coma for 13 months. He had a brain tumor and he had to do a surgery to remove it. The surgery was a success, but apparently one of the surgeons damaged his brain accidentally, and because of that he was in a coma for 13 months. When he woke up he could barely speak and he had to make a recovery at the hospital. After 2 or 3 months of recovery he looked a lot better, but unfortunately for our family he was a completely different person when he started to speak more clearly, which was very sad. But when his memories came back he was acting like before the coma, which made everyone in our family very happy again. I asked him a few weeks how was the experience. He said it was confusing and strange, but at the end it was all good because everything is back to normal. Sounds surreal. I don't know the first thing about brain injuries or memory loss, but his full recovery sounds very rare, and very lucky. He still didn't make a 100% recovery, he still has a few things to relearn, but besides these things, yeah, he got lucky to make such a recovery. Best friend of an old colleague of mine who I met a few times at drinks etc. She was in a car accident when she was about 20, spent a few months in a coma. Upon waking up apparently her whole personality changed, especially her goals and stuff. Before the accident she wanted me to a teacher and was in uni, but after the accident she couldn't think of anything worse and wanted to become a hairdresser. She couldn't remember a lot of her teenage years and she said some things like her favorite food and TV shows had changed, from what people told her she liked beforehand, and taste in music. I was absolutely flabbergasted by what she was telling me. Roseanne Barr said a similar thing. Apparently she was in a car accident at 16 I think. Before that she had to watch and care for her siblings, was a square, never cursed etc. After the accident, I don't think she was in a coma. Her first words were "I need a cigarette." She left her family without notice, moved away, had sex, got pregnant, put the baby for adoption, had more children, wasn't afraid to speak her mind. I found it really interesting. I went comatose twice in my life, 7 to 10 hours the time, and I've no recollection of the second time. Both originating from the same head condition, hydrocephalic pressurization, and I ended up a potato. The waking up from the first coma, I was dazed but functional. Came to and tried to figure out why I was tied down to the hospital bed while I've got all my family members standing in my room crying. I could talk and think, it was just the haze of coming out of anesthesia that made things difficult that time. I was only in the hospital a week, but had to relearn how to walk. The second coma, I have no recollection of. It's like my brain intentionally decided to shield me from the event. But from what I've gathered, I went from functioning normal up to the day before, told family I was going to take a nap and proceeded to sleep for about approx 18 hours. My mom and brother managed to get me to wake up long enough to walk out to their car, while my boyfriend pulled up to check up on me. Some hours later, after the second surgery, I wake up and I'm talking, conversing to everyone like normal. My partner says it was terrifying to experience, but the absolute worst part was after coming to, I kept saying I wanted Cece's pizza cause it just looked so tasty. You know it's bad when you're wanting Cece's pizza. Doesn't work like Steven Seagal in Hard to Kill. Dude wakes up fighting people. Kill Bill was slightly more accurate, she is pretty fucked up for the entire first scene. She wakes, then a time jump happens. Wiggle your big toe. So I had a foot surgery where I was told I had to wiggle my toes afterwards. Keeps the blood moving and prevents blood clots I guess. Night before surgery I painted my toes Kill Bill themed. Actually pulled myself out of anesthesia to a dead silent operating room so I could point out my toes are Kill Bill themed because of it. Last thing I remember is everyone laughing in that room before I passed out. My friend is a nurse, and when my mom was sick and we were talking about end-of-life plans, she told me that being in a coma is very traumatizing. The dreamlike state that you are constantly in can cause ICU-induced PTSD because the patients are living on high-dose sedatives. Yeah, this is a big thing. I was in the ICU for 45 days, but I was so sedated I don't remember most of it. The dreams I did have and the stuff I remember now mostly revolved around being trapped, unable to move, being stuck, etc. I also had a very hard time when I was first waking up of just realizing where I was, what happened and why I was there. Scary stuff, but it saved my life. True. Also, delirium is one of the most frequent side effects of the ICU, even if you're not in a coma.